Hey folks, Mr. MegaManFan here. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. You know all the things to do. Today, we are looking at Sunsoft Collection 2. Now, they have a lot of classic games from the NES, Game Boy, Sega Genesis, and the like. But some of those aren't going to be here for licensing reasons. However, I think the ones that are probably justify owning this collection, with one possible exception and one notable title. It's always nice to get a physical manual with these, and it does have some nice notes about Euphoria where it says, "This is the first entry in a series known as Harabiki in its native Japan, where each game has a completely different playstyle," which is also indicative of why it never came out in the West. So, without further ado, let's put this in the verses, and I will put the tripod in front of the television and we will check it out. By the way, for those who noticed the signal drops with Donut Dodo, I bought a new Switch box and it turned out to not be the fault of the old Switch box. It was simply that my Evercade Versus was complaining about going through any Switch box because the new one was not better than the old one. So I put the Versus on a dedicated input without going through any Switch box, and now it seems to be working just fine. Yeah, that looks okay on the camera from my perspective, and hopefully when I edit the video it looks just as good. But we've got 7 games here, and since I've already talked about Euphoria so much, why don't we go ahead and start with that. Sometimes it's kind of amazing to me that these games were in English and didn't get US releases. That color balance looks a little better. It's the other thing you have to worry about when filming, is that sometimes the picture it picks up is way too bright. Oops. Okay, the jump is mapped to B instead of X, and that's already going to annoy me, so save and apply. Alright, let's try this again. That's better. That's more like it. Okay. Not completely defenseless. That is a little better. Okay, what constitutes the subscreen here? Oh. Alright then. You know what, this is a interesting game, but it's going to take me a while to get the hang of the controls, so I think we're going to move to something else in the interim. Let's make a save here. It always bugs me on Evercade when you make a save state and it does that stuttering noise. I realize that's probably just the hardware, the limitations of the hardware, but oh well. I don't think Days Before Christmas ever came out in the US either. Arrow the Acro-Bat did, but that's a stupidly expensive game, so $20 for a copy of it might be exactly what the doctor ordered. Of course, if you want Arrow the Acro-Bat 1, you're going to need the previous Sunsoft collection. Shame they couldn't put them both on one. Yes, Iguana Entertainment developed this for Sunsoft. That's why I like to say Sunsoft published a lot of games. They aren't necessarily the authors of every game they published, but they did publish some classic games. And here's our protagonist, who was Sunsoft's attempt to make their very own Mario character. I don't think it quite worked out the way they wanted to. He's a little more Sonic than Mario, but I don't know that he ever achieved the popularity of either. So I think it would be a mistake to call him a franchise character. He was a noble attempt at a franchise character who never quite got there. Come on, just get up there. So that was a checkpoint. That's a good place to save it. And there's that stuttering again. Alright, let's go back to the menu. Days Before Christmas. A Super Nintendo game, if I'm not mistaken. As popular as Christmas is in the United States, you would have thought they'd release this here, but a platformer game starring Saturn. Kind of weird, but okay. This has kind of that Sonic feeling to it where it wants to be fast, but it shouldn't necessarily be fast. Like, I feel like you might just end up in a bad position if you do anything fast. It wants you to go fast, but you shouldn't go fast, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know that this is necessarily anything to write home about other than the Christmas theme. It feels like one of those generic 90s platformers that couldn't decide whether it wanted to be Sonic or Mario. But it's an interesting novelty all the same, I will give it that. So far the games I'm saying the collection is worth it for are Arrow the Acro-Bat 2 and Euphoria. Well, it's probably worth it for Zero as well. This is another... It's probably worth it for Zero too. This is another game that can run you very high prices on the secondary market, which also had a reprint, so if you want to play it on real hardware, you can do that. Okay, let's go. Yes, right away, Zero gets shot down and crash lands on a beach. This is another one of those games that can't make up its mind whether to be fast or slow. it gives you momentum as you're running, but do you necessarily want it when you're going to get flung into something? And even when you try to avoid something, you still take a hit. You get the idea. Let's do Galaxy Fight. For some, this might be a draw. If this was a favorite game of yours prior to it being on a Sunsoft compilation. It takes a long time to boot up, doesn't it? Okay. A lot of waiting and a lot of loading. And the loading screens aren't particularly impressive. And at the end of the day, what you get is a Mortal Kombat clone. All that waiting just for this. But again, if you were a fan of Galaxy Fight back in the day, then maybe this is worth it to you, but I think I'd rather play Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter than this. Yeah, so far I'm not impressed by Galaxy Fight. Excessively long wait time for the fact that I already knew I had lost. Oh. No, I'm not feeling this one at all. He does massive amounts of damage, and yet when I land one hit, it does minimal damage. We're not even going to save state this one. I'm done with it. Primitive Princess. Looks like it was a Game Boy game. One that I am not familiar with, I'm going to be honest. Let's see what the premise is for this Primitive Princess. Very obtuse controls. It makes you do things only the way it wants you to do it and not any other way. Alright, can I finally solve this puzzle? Yeah, you can only do what this game wants you to do. And how am I supposed to get to that ladder? Oh, fill gap. Is it actually going to let me do that now? Apparently you can only fill gap one at a time. Or not. It looked like I was filling a gap, but now I'm not. Son of a bitch. You want to tell me how to get to that ladder, huh? Alright, I've had enough of this. I do not recommend pre-pre. Yeah, and I think this is the Blaster Master that most people are not fond of, but it's probably better than pre-pre by a landslide, so yeah, this is the Game Boy Color game, I think. I will take this over pre-pre. It's got familiar music. The controls are like I remember from NES Blaster Master, which is the definitive version as far as I'm concerned. Honestly, I don't know why people dog on this so much. This seems like a perfectly acceptable Blaster Master game. Maybe it just suffers in comparison to the others, but I don't hate it. Oops. Those weeds were killing me. That was a bad decision. Okay, so how do I get him out of the tank to explore? I'd have to look here. Enter exit tank. Okay. There we go. So nobody can survive those weeds. Not in the tank, not out of the tank. You just can't go in the weeds. At least now I know. There has to be a point to this cave, though, because there's no other direction to go. Alright, you have to go up. That's the answer to that. Yeah, okay. Enemy below is fine. There are 4 games I can strongly recommend on this collection, and they are Arrow the Acro-Bat 2, Blaster Master, Euphoria, and Zero. Days Before Christmas, pretty generic. Galaxy Fight, not worth the load times. Pre-pre, there's got to be more to it, but I don't even care. So 4 out of 7, considering at least 2 of them are stupidly expensive and 1 never even came out in North America. I'd say Sunsoft Collection 2 is worth your $20. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. Thanks for watching.